joining. Today we're going to demonstrate the basics of customizing forms and reports in Sage 100 Contractor. We're going to show you how to add and delete fields. We're going to draw boxes and lines, add and remove text, change fonts and sizes. We're going to show you how to add pictures, and we'll play around with colors. And of course, we'll show you how to save your creations. For today's demonstration, we are going to use a purchase order. First, let's discuss the difference between reports and forms. The area in the grid, the items and details, that is the report. Think of forms like letterhead. They consist of the information in the header and the footer. Okay, so let's take a look at our purchase order. So if we go to print, this should be what you see when you go to print your purchase order. Now there are a couple of added extra things here that I've already been working on, but what you will see is on the left here is the box with the list of reports. And the system reports, they're numbered with 8 numbers. And if you look at the top, 661, basically this report, purchase order with notes, is 06060131. The system reports start at 21 and go up. So if you create a report, customize a report, when you save it, you're going to save it with anything less than that number. The forms will be in this drop-down box here. So but basically all you'll see is this one for now until you customize your own. Okay, so we're going to choose the purchase order with notes because we do have a note, and see what this looks like. And print preview, and we're going to have this purchase order. So I'm going to look at this and decide what I want and what I don't want, and what I want to add and what I want to change. So firstly, in the center section here is we're going to see the report, what was on our grid. Well, I don't have anything in the part number or the unit, so I want to get rid of that. And, obviously I want to add my own logo and, make this look a little bit nicer. So what I have in mind, what I envision for my purchase order, looks more like this. So how do we go from here to here? Well, first things first, let's modify the report. How do we do that? Well, we're going to click on Modify Report. And that is going to bring up our report. So if you'll notice here, we have text. These are just text fields that describe the detail. So this would be the part number, the description, and so on. I don't want the part number. I want to remove that. So I'm just going to click on it and hit my delete key. I'm going to click on it, hit my delete key. That was easy. I'm going to get rid of this one as well. Okay. Well, now I want to move my description over. I can do this a couple of ways. I can grab it, hold down my left mouse button and move it around, or I can highlight it and move it with my arrow key. And since I want to keep these together, I'm going to click on one, hold my control key down and click on the other one, and then I'm just going to move it over together, keep them together. but I notice they're not lined up anymore. So I'm going to right-click on it, align left position. Now, if I highlight them, they're lined up, but I'm going to move them over a little bit more. Okay. So I changed my report. I got rid of what I didn't want. I moved these over and lined it up. Now what else do we want to do? Let's change the font. So if we click on a field, we're going to right click and go to properties. You can see the properties of the field. Currently, this is our font, the size, the layout in the line, and description of what it is, where it's pulling from on the table, and what the field name is. So I could, if I wanted to, change the font, change the size, say OK, and do that for every single one of these, one at a time. Or I could select multiple objects, go to the top, and hold my left mouse button down, highlight the entire section, right-click, Properties, and change it here. So let's see. I like Century Gothic, and I want everything to be size 10. I'm not going to choose anything to be bolded or not bolded because it's not all going to be the same. So I'm going to leave that alone, and I'm going to say OK. Now I just changed the font for everything. So everything looks the way I want it to look. I want to go ahead and save it, take a look at it again, see what else I need to do. Let's save. We are going to change the name. We don't want it to say purchase order with notes. We want it to say our own Alliance PO. The name, we're going to save it. Now, we want to point out that when we save a report, as I said earlier, we need to change the last two numbers. And they need to be a number below number 21. Well, I want my report to be top of the list, so I'm going to name it 01. Now, I don't have the option to save as a shared report. However, if you're at a company and you have, you're on a network, you want to make sure that you save as a shared report. That way, everyone who logs in and needs to print a purchase order has access to this report device. So you will always click on the shared report and save it. Okay? So now we have 01, Alliance PO. So let's take a look at it. So this is what it looks like now after our changes. We've gotten rid of the columns we don't want. We've moved the description, and we changed the font. And now I notice in changing the font, we've shifted out of alignment here on our mount. So we need to change that. So we're going to close this. We are going to go back into Modify Report. And now we need to line up our numbers over here. So I'm going to highlight the group, right-click, Align Right Position. And they shift into alignment. So I'm going to do the same thing here with these. And I want my subtotal to match. So right-click, Align Right Position. And of course, they lined up, but they moved over. So I'm going to move these back over. Perfect. And let's make sure that these are lined up. They might be, but we'll go ahead and do it anyway. Perfect. So let me look at everything. That looks good. Let's address these notes. So this is coming from the main note section, the main notes of the purchase order. These notes are line notes, then they print, if I had some, they would print underneath the description of each line item. This is the main note section. So I want this to stand out more because this is really important to me, and I need to make sure that it stands out. So I'm going to right-click, go to Property, and first I want it to say more than notes. So I want this to say important. Important purchase order notes. Okay. And I don't want it to just be bold. I want it to be italicized as well. And I also want it to be underlined. Okay. And I want the color to be different because I want it to really stand out. So I'm going to click on the color, drop down here, and I'm going to choose the color that I want. Okay. Now, this one matches my logo best, so I'm going to choose that one. Okay. And now, my purchase order notes stand out. But I also want them to line up with the description. So there's a couple of different ways I can do this. I can highlight everything and right-click a line, or I could click on the description property and take a look and see where it's left aligned. Okay, I'm going to right-click here and make it match. Left align 14. Okay, and I want this the same way. Left click 14. Okay, so it lines up. Perfect. This looks good. So I'm going to save it. Now, I'm saving right over the one that I did because all I did was make changes. However, I do want to point out, and this is very important, if I were to have used this report to create a different report, make sure you change this number. Because the one thing that Sage does not do is warn you that this already exists. Are you sure you want to save that number? It does not tell you that. It just lets you save. So you could save right over top of it. If that's not what you want to do, make sure you check that out first. So let's look at our new creation. So that's not the right one. This is our new creation. So this is our report. This is what we just finished. All lined up. This stands out. All lined up. This looks perfect. All right, just what we wanted. So now let's move on to the form part of this. So we are going to alter the system report. Edit, form design. So modify report for the report, edit form design for the form. Okay, and here is the system form. A lot to do, so let's start with how to delete things. I'm going to delete this. Don't want that house. I want my own logo, and I'm going to first grab this and move it out of the way. So I'm going to move it out of the way. And this is company name, company address. I'm going to move it out of the way. Maybe I don't want my license number to show up on this purchase order, so I'm just going to delete it. So now I've left plenty of room up here to insert my logo. So I'm going to go to Insert, Picture, and this takes me to my MB7 BMP folder, which is where we store the logos. So I'm going to double click on my logo and plop it right in there. All right, so my logo happens to be my company name, so I don't want my company name to print again, so I'm just going to delete that. This is the company address, so I'm going to move this over right about there. Well, first thing I notice is my logo's covering up the font. Now, in the form design, these items basically stack on top of each other. So the last thing you put on is on the top of the stack. So how do we fix this? What I would suggest is copy, paste, delete the first one. Now this one was put in after the logo. Now it can go right up on top of it. So if you should happen to have a bigger white area around your logo, like we have the little swoosh here, this is the best way to handle that. Okay. Now, I want my font to be changed because I want it to match my purchase or my report part of my purchase order. So I need to highlight everything, and including this and this and this, and I'm going to right-click Properties, and I'm going to change this to match. I'm not going to pick a size. Well, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pick a size. I'm going to pick number 10. Okay. That changed my font. Now, it changed this. I'm going to move this over. So basically at this point, you're just moving things around and just designing this the way that you like it. So let's make this big again, right-click Properties, and I want this to go back up to be large, and I want it italicized, and I want it to be a different color. So I am going to, now for some reason, this chocolate, says chocolate, looks orange to me, but that's the best match that I've found in my color choices to match my logo swoosh. So there it is. I'm going to move it back over there. Now, I don't want the purchase order to be higher than my logo. I want that to stand up more. Now, this looks like it's going outside of the margins, but until you print it and look at it, you would be surprised that it's really not. So I'm going to drop. I notice these are left aligned. I want these right aligned. Right. Now, that looks good, but I want these left aligned. Right click, left aligned. And then I'm going to move these down a little bit, and maybe even over a little bit. I'm going to grab this. Let's put this back. Move it up. I've got to change the font in here. So I'm just going to highlight everything and right-click, Properties, change my font, size. Okay, perfect. Now, ordered by. This is who ordered. I don't want this in here. I want this up here. Perfect. But I want this and this to be lined up. And of course, move this over a little. And I want this and this to be left aligned. Perfect. Now, let's move these over. Okay. And let's center that. There. Now, let's do the same thing here. Grab everything and move it over. Perfect. So, wait a minute. I know that on my purchase order, there was attention to. So not only is this going to the vendor, but someone specific at the vendor. So I want to add that. I'm just going to say attention, and let's insert the field. Okay. Now we need to find the field. So we're going to go to Project Management, Purchase Orders, and find what we want to add. So if you look over here, you'll see the name and the description of the field contained in the purchase order. And right here, attention, the name of the person. So we're going to double click and it drops it into our form. Let's change the font to match. Perfect. Now we want this to be bolded to match the build to. And then we need to line things up. So we're going to make sure that these left align. And we're going to make sure that these right align. And of course it jumped. We'll shift it back. And then we also need to make sure that these right click top align. So they line up together. Okay? So that looks really good. Now let's address these lines because I want these lines to be colorful. So here is the property box for the line. So let's drop the width down a little bit. I want it to be a little bit smaller, and I want to change the color. So we'll choose the color, and we say OK. Perfect. Let's do the same thing for this box. This line, not box, line. Change the width, and change the color. Okay. Awesome. So let's look at the bottom of this. Go down. Okay, let's move this up a little bit. And what do we want to have here? Well, I am not going to be tracking sales tax on my purchase orders. So all I want in this box is just the total. So I'm going to delete, I'm going to highlight these items and delete them. Don't want them in there. Okay, and I'm going to highlight these. I'm going to bring them up a little bit. Plus, the box is now too big, so I'm going to highlight the box. And I'm going to shrink it down just a touch. And I just realized that when I changed all my font up here, it didn't get the bottom. So I'm going to right-click, Property, and I'm going to change my font. Perfect. Wait, one more thing on this box. Let's highlight it. Go to Properties. Make it match our lines. So I'm going to make this width a little bigger. And I'm going to change the color. Okay. Awesome. Now, what does this say? Terms. I'll change blah, 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 blah. Okay, that can stay. But it's got to match my font. Property. And I need to drop the size down just a little bit. Okay, perfect. I'm going to let's bring it down to line up with our box, our total box. Awesome. So let's save this and see what we think. We're going to save. Now, we need to name it. Okay, so what do I want to name it? I'm going to name it. Name is my report. And I'm going to save it. Now, here is my report, and here is my form. So let's take a look at it. Okay. This looks really good. I like this. Let's see, what do I want to change? Okay, I don't like this black line, and I want another blue line in here. And I want to put my website up there. How do I do that? Okay, so first things first, let's go to Modify Report. Get rid of this black line. I don't want it there. Delete. Save it. And let's edit our form. Okay, what did we want to do in here? We want to put in our website. Okay, so this, I'm going to move it up just a little bit. Now this had our address and our phone number, so the website would have to come down to about here. So, alliance.com. Perfect. Now let's fix this to match. And let's make it blue. Okay, perfect. So let's make sure that the sizes are the same and make sure that they line up. I think that might need to go just a little higher. Okay, and I wanted to add a blue line down here. So I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to draw my line right here. Okay, now I want to make it match this one, so I'm going to right click and look at the properties of this line and see that it starts at 49 on the left and it's 719 on the width. Okay, so I'm going to right click properties of my new line, and 49, 719, I want to make this a 2. I'm going to change the color to blue. Okay. Okay. Perfect. So let's save it. And let's go take a look at it. So we have our report, our form. Let's print preview. Awesome. So the line we didn't want is gone. We added a blue line, and everything looks great. Now we could go back in and maybe move the website up a little bit more. So basically at this point, we're tweaking. Now I will say that when you're customizing a form or a report, you should print preview often for content. And by that I mean make sure we've got the right address. We want this, we want this, we want this. And make sure you have all the content that you want. At that point, I would suggest that you either print this to paper or to PDF, because like if you look right here, you'll see that this looks like it's crammed together, like you need to move this over. But often you will find that the print preview is not exactly how this is going to print out. So I would suggest you print preview often for content. Once you get the content, print a PDF and look at it, because you'll probably find that this is spaced exactly the way that it should be. It just doesn't appear that way on this form, on the print preview. So that is the basic, quick and easy way to modify a report and form design. It's the easiest way to do that is to find one that exists and modify it. If you try to start from scratch, it is a lot more work, a lot more work. We have just some examples of some reports that I have done for other clients. Let's see, let me show you just some things that can be done. A checklist. Someone wanted a checklist. Change order. You can. I did this to match the purchase order for a 3-2 invoice. So very basic. A lien waiver. A cover fax for a lien waiver. A lien waiver. Progress billing that is exactly like the AIA document. Second page. And then work orders. This is a 4-page work order. So, and then, of course, we did our purchase order today. So, just a few examples of some customizations that can be done, and that's basically all I have for today. And I think Tim can take it from here and wrap things up.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Sherry. Everybody, I'll go ahead and send a link of the recording out to everybody. If you do have immediate forms needs, if it's something that you can't do on your own, or you've tried and struggled, and this training session wasn't enough, please give our office a call at 888-559-9540.